Hi, my name is Lisa Pavia-Higel. I am a communications educator and a filmmaker. Basically, my job is about stories, either telling them or helping other people find their own. As a result of this work, I feel like for the most part, I can get along with almost anybody. But when this happened, I really struggled. I really struggled. I mean, sure, we'd had protests before, and some of them had even become violent. But this felt just different. It felt very different. I mean, this was a group of Americans who were so disconnected from the rest of the country that they felt the need to go and try to stop a democratic process that had been in place for hundreds of years from happening. And I mean, that really hit me hard. I mean, yes, I know we have been politically divided for a long time. And I felt like we had to do something about it. We have to do something about how we relate to each other, how we talk about politics, and how we have these really important conversations that make us a country. And since I teach communications, I felt like it was my responsibility to try to be part of the answer.
I wanted to get a sense of what the people around me thought about this topic. So, I took my family out for a little painting and politics.
Almost 10 years old. You're saying it's not too late?
Not too late. You've been hearing what Mama's been talking about. Why do you think people don't talk to each other when it's about political and social justice stuff? Why do you think that they struggle?
Because a lot of the times I think they're afraid that they won't agree with them, and a lot of the times they strive to be right and stuff like that. They just want to be right.
I don't know.
Do you think
St. Louis seems maybe primed for it, but
do you think that people's inability to engage has gotten worse? Do you think people struggle? I mean, it is.
Oh yeah, it has definitely gotten a lot worse. I think it's gotten worse because the attitudes and feelings have become more extreme.
Really?
It's when one person believes that the other person is literal evil.
Yeah,
it is literally causing harm in a major important way, and not just in a theoretical policy kind of way, but this is actually going to lead to the demise of what I consider civilization.
While my family had some great points, I felt like I needed a lot more information. So I decided to go out and have as many conversations as I could with neighbors, friends, and students. Basically, anyone who would talk with me about the division they'd seen, the causes of that division, and the effect it had on their individual lives.
Doing a documentary on political division, would you have time to answer a couple of questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. Very cool. Thank you so much.
In my high school, at least, it's pretty liberal, so I don't really see it on a smaller level, within my community, really. Yeah, I'm more at a more Republican type high school, and I see a lot of people post different things regarding the presidential elections and stuff.
Yeah, I've definitely gotten into arguments with people before about which people who I would have just been passive friends with, I'm kind of not.
Yeah.
Don't really want to engage with anymore as much.
Exactly.
There's actually a communications term for that. It's called circumscribing. Think of it like quarantine for your conversations. Basically, you are drawing circles around the topics that you're not okay discussing with that person. And in a way, this seems like this should work, right? If we don't talk about it, it won't hurt our relationships. But the problem is that the number of bubbles we have are increasing. And when you quarantine too many topics because they're political or because they've been politicized, all you're left with is silence.
To address those silences, I had to figure out how we got here in the first place.
I personally believe the virus has probably caused more division, and then with the media and the politicians and all the changes, I think that's really caused a massive division.
And I think it's, where did it go? I think it's this.
You do? Why?
I think this is because it's Facebook. It's the crux of all our problems. People don't talk like this. So when you do it on Facebook, you're not listening, you're just seeing words.
The thing is, it's like, I've blocked a lot of people over, and it all started, I'm just gonna say, any person of color noticed the change when Trump got in office because it made racism okay.
Definitely don't have optimism right now, especially because there's still so much going on and there's still a lot being screwed up by politics right now. And I sort of stopped paying attention because I just know it's just getting worse.
And I know a lot of people who kind of who just had ongoing plans, to dip and go to Vietnam and Canada and stuff for a while. So, I don't know, I'm kind of, I think that things will get a lot worse, and I don't know if fear is the right word, but optimism isn't.
Trying to figure out the causes of this political division is kind of like wading into a swamp. There are a lot of different ideas, but one topic does come up over and over. And oh, hold on just a sec. She said, what? Oh, social media. It's social media.
Where my mom and my aunts and grandma, they were they're trying to get rid of, Mr. Potato Head and Dr. Seuss and stuff. And I was like, okay, but cancel culture had nothing to do with that, Grandma. You need to read the article. And it's the company that's putting out this policy, you call it? Yeah.
People are kind to your face, but won't say anything until they think that they can get away with it online, which is probably a majority of the human race.
We have to, it's easy to demonize an entire group of individuals if you don't have to see them and engage with them in person.
All that talk about social media kind of got me stuck in a rut. I ended up going onto social media and kind of started to doom scroll for a couple of days.
Lisa, what are you doing?
Huh? What? Joe, how'd you get in my computer?
I don't know, but I think we need to talk.
What do we need to talk about?
Are you trying to find answers on Facebook?
No, I was using the library like I really should. I wasn't I wasn't using Facebook for my news. Joe, everyone's mad at each other and I can't get anybody talking. And it really scares me when people say that they can't talk to each other because this. I'm a communications person. Talking is what I do. And people are saying that they can't talk to each other anymore and that everyone who doesn't like them is bad. And it's freaking me out. How did people get this way? How do people get so entrenched in their bubble that they think everyone else outside their bubble is a bad person?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in some ways that's by design. You think about Facebook, YouTube, all of these different social media platforms. Initially, they're designed to show you things that you want to see. And so if you have a very strong political opinion about something, or even not so strong, Facebook is going to think you just want to see more and more of that. And it's going to exclude all the information that might change your mind or might make you think twice. And so before you know it, people are just all inside of their little, we call it the filter bubble. People are all inside of their little silos, just talking to other people who agree with them.
What are some other things that we can do to kind of get out of our collective filter bubbles?
Yeah, I think part of it is just trying to remain curious and thinking about, one thing that comes up a lot in social media, you'll hear about people cutting certain people in their families off, or defriending people on Facebook. And there are situations where obviously, if it's abusive, it makes sense, but it's also you have to not help Facebook create the filter bubble for you. And every time if you just get rid of someone because you're a Republican and they're a Democrat, and you just defriend everyone who's a Democrat, that's you're reinforcing the filter bubble.
Joe was the first of a couple of experts I really wanted to talk to in order to figure out how to move forward and what we can do to start to make things better. Next up, I had to talk to a scientist, a political scientist.
Why does it feel more divided to you? What might be the cause?
Right. So I think there's sort of two things that come to mind. One, and this really predates the 2000s, but for lack of a better term, political entrepreneurs realizing that it is in their interest to talk about the other side as if they are not an equal. So I remember Newt Gingrich, for example, talking about, don't talk about compromise. Don't talk about them being patriotic or Americans. They're evil. They hate us, things of that nature. And I think that's really taken off, frankly. I mean, even though he's essentially been out of politics for about a decade, that notion that, you know, there is no middle ground, that to compromise is somehow the worst possible thing that you could do. So I think part of it's that. To another extent, eliminate politicians for a moment, parties for a moment. But I think, frankly, more and more people are self-selecting their news from very partisan sources. So fewer people, and especially when I think of students, they're not watching network news. Some might be watching CNN, some might be watching Fox, but like most of the news is coming from social media apps that they have chosen because they say the things that they want to hear.
My next stop was to get a little bit more information, dig a little deeper. I wanted to talk to two people who really had shaped me as a communicator, Scott and Gina Jensen. They are a husband and wife team of communications professors at Webster University.
There are a number of things that are surrounding us, almost preventing us from listening.
Will they communicate? So the rhetorical strategies. Here's the reality. So the reality about social movements and their rhetoric is that it's persuasion. And so being persuasion, there are ethics that are associated with communication choices.
I think we want them to come away from our classes with confidence, the ability to, you know, find their voice, speak for themselves, speak up on their own behalf. And really, I think just to learn a confidence in being a good communicator.
Yeah, I want them to learn about the importance of audience, even in an interpersonal course, the idea that they're learning to engage with other people. And so as part of that, learning to balance who they are and being confident in whatever that identity is, and finding ways to adapt that to different contexts and different people in a way that fosters relationships and fosters understanding.
I feel like as teachers, it's our job to try to block out as much white noise or political noise as we can and just teach the next generation how to communicate, how to dialogue in a productive, healthy way.
You know, the communication model that we teach in our interpersonal class here is basically one that has two fields of experience with an overlap. And we teach that the goal of communication is to expand that overlap. And it doesn't mean that we become clones of one another, but it means that we open ourselves up to experiences that are not ours.
We have to find middle ground. We have to go back to being a we. We have to do it in every classroom. We have to show that neither side is bad or wrong, that we're all Americans, we're all humans, and we have to keep, it's communication. We have to keep teaching communication. We have to keep teaching civil discourse.
I think we think about the lessons that we teach, even at the elementary school, at elementary schools, you know, and find ways of celebrating differences and bringing those to light. It's not going to happen overnight. I mean, frankly, in a short amount of time, we have become entrenched in a really frightening dogma and situation that has got to change. But I think those are the steps.
I really learned a lot from these conversations, but I wanted to make sure I wasn't just getting that academic context. I needed someone who was really working with people on a relationship level.
I'm Laura McMahon. I'm the pastor at St. John United Church of Christ in St. Clair, Missouri.
Yeah, has there been a loss of relationship or a loss of community or a loss of fellowship?
Sure. Oh yeah, so we've had, you know, across the spectrum, right, at both ends and everywhere in between. And, you know, my congregation knows where I'm coming from, right? They would I've got a number of folks who would jokingly, right, they'd call me a bleeding heart liberal, and right, but there was a level of respect and mutuality that I was never going to convince them this is what, is right. And that certainly was never my intention from the pulpit to do, right? But it was sort of an agree to disagree, but we had sort of a banter about it. And over the past year, I think that's really gone away. And I've wondered about that a lot, and I wish I had a good answer about what motivated that.
So if I'm going to actually engage in some political dialogue about a social issue or a justice issue with somebody who really, really, really disagrees with me, where do I start? It feels like I'm approaching someone from a completely different reality.
Can I tell you a story?
Absolutely. I love stories.
So I had a couple of congregants call me a few weeks ago, and they were very distraught that they had gotten their first vaccine shot, right? And a family member had found out about that and was very upset with them that they had done that, because they believed that this was part of Satan's plan for the apocalypse and world takeover, and right, and this family member had spent hours railing at them about how wrong they were to have gotten this vaccine, and that this was all a big, and they called me and they were very concerned that their entire salvation was on the line because of this, right? And what do we do? And we talked about it, and I did not agree with their family member, of course, and I, not a medical professional, cannot give medical advice, but I told them what I thought the most loving thing to do out of all the information we have before us is to be vaccinated if we medically can to take care of our brothers and sisters. And we talked about that for a very long time. And their family member is a family member. I can't tell them flat out, like, that's crazy, don't believe that, right? But what do we do? And I told them, I think the most loving thing your family member was doing was trying to do what they thought was best. I think the best and most loving thing we can do for others is to move forward with this. They came back to church the next Sunday, and here we are. I think it really is about holding the humanity and not pitting people against each other. That we can disagree, and we can name where we are disagreeing and where our differences are, and still hold them accountable, but also hold their humanity before us.
This conversation has been awesome. So thank you so much for your time and everything. So you rock. Elbow bumps. Yay. Elbow bumps. Yay! We solved it. We solved all the world's problems.
Done.
As I was wrapping up my conversation with Pastor Laura, this happened.
Hello.
Oh, hi.
Hi, I'm good. My name's Emma, and I heard you talking before to a woman about issues that mean a lot to me, and I was wondering if I could answer any questions for you.
Oh my gosh, that would be so awesome. Thank you. Yeah, let me get you mic'd up and
Okay,
all that good stuff.
thank you. My name is Emma Pabst. I am 21 years old. I'm a senior and I go to Vanderbilt University majoring in English, and I'm from around here, so I'm remote right now, so I'm kind of in the local area.
Now you were over there just doing homework.
Yes.
So what made you want to come over here and get on film?
And it just like really interested me because you were talking about the division, and so a lot of times I think where I'm from, like around Labadee, people don't really like to talk about that division because they're either leaning one way or the other, and there's not really any kind of like conversation that doesn't turn into an argument. It's not a debate, it's an argument, and so no one really listens to each other. And so it was really interesting to me that you guys were just having this open and honest conversation about these issues without, getting really like hectic. Yeah.
What do we do about it? How do we fix it?
So I think that one of the things that needs to be done is that people need to take us seriously. And I feel like there's this idea of like the millennial, I'm in the middle of like millennial Gen Z, so like the late millennials, Gen Z, Gen X, whatever. I think that they want to feel like their opinions are taken seriously and not just like they're the lazy group of kids that's addicted to technology. And then on the other flip side, I think that we, as a younger generation, have to be willing to talk to like the older generation without becoming defensive and without lashing out.
So it was these little moments of connection that really kept me going through this project. Even though I was hearing from students that things were hopeless and that nothing could fix anything, having someone come up and want to engage on this topic really gave me a lot of momentum to keep going. But it made me realize that the probable best fix for political division was interpersonal connection, relationship building. It's what Pastor Laura was talking about. How do we make connections with each other? And how on earth do we do that in a global pandemic? Then I remembered the group Braver Angels. They're an organization that works to connect people across political lines. Kind of exactly what I wanted to do. They were formed in 2016, but have been very active during this time of pandemic to keep people talking. I had the chance to attend a really cool workshop. And then, afterwards, some of the organizers talked to me about Braver Angels, who they are, and how they're being part of the solution.
Hi, how are you guys?
Good morning.
Great to be here.
I'm somewhat of a poster child for the workshop that you just attended, Families and Politics. I had the misfortune of sitting at a large Thanksgiving dinner a year and a half ago, where a member literally came up out of their chair, much to the chagrin of about a dozen of us around the table, and it became clear to me that we needed to have a way of airing our differences and actually coming together to understand each other better so that we could discuss those things in a more civil way and in a more appropriate times.
I really do have a natural curiosity for the way people think and how they've come to their beliefs through their experiences. And those are really enlightening conversations. So I had been thinking about that principle already. And when one of my friends sent me a podcast that featured Braver Angels, or Better Angels at the time, I said, wow, that's exactly what I've been thinking about and what I think we need. And so I really took the opportunity to dive right in. And yeah, it's been the most engaging experience of my life.
I have been politically interested since I was a teenager. I don't know why or how. I don't recall where I got my news from or any of that. I've just been politically interested. And so I ran for office in college. I was elected senator to student government from the junior class and loved it. I just felt naturally in my element. I've been asked to run locally for office. I haven't stepped into that. I feel like maybe I'm better used in doing what I'm doing with Braver Angels.
Tell me a little bit about those successes. Tell me some of your success stories.
One woman, when it was her turn, we were at a big conference table. She paused and she put her elbows on the table and she looked left and she looked right at all the people in the room. And she said, do you all know that this is the only place I can come to talk about my political viewpoints without being ostracized by my family, without having my yard sign vandalized? I'm very grateful for this. And she went on thanking everybody for that. And I thought, wow, if I can be a part of something that creates that kind of space for someone who's hurting, that is something I want to do.
The Family and Politics workshop that I attended on Saturday really talked about kind of identifying and responding to different types of communicators. Tell me a little bit about the role of helping people learn to listen in the Braver Angels kind of curricula. I think that active listening is really at the core of what we do, because it really sets you up to engage with someone on a level that is much deeper and much more productive than otherwise. People have a tendency to be thinking about how they're going to respond as they're listening to you. I think we all have experienced that. We've all struggled with that. And if you really listen with the intent to understand instead, then it sets you up to really grasp on a deeper level what you have in common with the person that you're talking to. And that generally is a lot more than you might expect. So if you start from that place and you're especially focused on making sure that you understand the essence of what they've just said, and so you are doing things like paraphrasing. So you're saying, okay, I believe that your point is this. Am I right on there? And you have to listen for the correction they may give you. But as soon as you really get to that understanding, you can actually respond in a much more productive and substantive way than if you were otherwise just thinking about the talking points that you usually have in your head and usually kind of play as a script in response to the other person's talking points.
Examine your own intention. And I would say also that is sometimes even more challenging, assume positive intent on the part of the other person. As hard as that might be sometimes, if we start by assuming positive intent on their part and to have a positive intent on our part, nothing will kick you off better and give hope for the conversation.
Another thing that came up during these interviews was that a lot of issues that sound political are actually not. They're more about our deepest values, our beliefs, our emotions. And those things can be very difficult to talk about, much less disagree about. All right, honesty time. So there was a point in this whole production when I started to really kind of get despondent enough to where I'm like, you know what? This is not gonna work. This is not gonna work. I need to find another topic or do something because this is just too big of a problem. I pulled myself together and remembered that luckily I have wonderful people in my life who solve these big problems for a living, which is awesome. I got together 3 social workers who I lovingly called my dream team and got them together to talk about this, and they did not disappoint. And so what I see as a communications professional is I see communication shutting down. I see us saying, oh, I can't talk to this person, I can't talk to that person. And that was one of the reasons that sparked this whole project. So my question for you guys is, I want to pull together a set of tools. What are some things? I'm going to teach some students, I want to put this in the program. What are some of those key skills that we can give to people so that they can have more effective conversations, not just with their family, but with their friends and their coworkers? And I want to make sure that when we devise this, we have a balance between being open and being receptive, but also holding people accountable and protecting our own selves. Because I have noticed that it feels like a lot of the programs are one or the other. Either we're extremely accepting and we kind of put our own feelings to the side, or we're like, only speaking truth to power and not really listening. And so I have some ideas, but I am more interested in what you all have as potential skills that I can give to people who would like to learn this.
How much time do you have?
So it felt like when I was talking to all of you guys that there was one skill that you felt we really needed to start with. What was that?
Active listening.
Okay, I get that.
So step outside of your personal self, which in these conversations can be difficult because you're probably having a personal reaction to what's being said. But in order to really be present and hear the feeling, hear the intent, you have to kind of remove yourself from it, your feelings.
I recommend that if people find themselves in suddenly one of these conversations, trying to remember the relationship that they have with whoever they're talking to. You probably didn't just start a random political conversation with a stranger standing in line for a sandwich. There's probably some reason why you're already talking to this person. So if you can remember that you have some connection with them and that you liked them 10 minutes ago, trying to just keep that in mind as they're saying things that may initially, really hit home hard, and being able to try and listen and understand their heart. Try and, take out your instant judgments and just take in, we are trying to connect and come to an understanding. And an understanding is not an agreement.
But I also think that the discussion like we're having about being vulnerable and how all these conversations are going to work to get us where we need to be, I think that those are going to be person-to-person conversations. I don't see it as being a macro level conversation that's going to change the minds and hearts of our country, the people.
So I think that's the part where, around the kitchen table, that's how we're unifying, that's how we're united, right? And that's how those things are going to come back again on local, starting with your kitchen table, family level, and then local level, that people connect again.
While we're having these great conversations, all of my beautiful dream team members decided to go and get up to the board and start putting some of these ideas down. And while we were doing that, this happened.
We just came up with a whole workshop.
Yeah, seriously, this is good.
I love this.
Yeah.
And this is, I know that we initially had said, this is a process, and it's not really something that you can just 1, 2, 3. But the truth is, using the outline of what we talked about, we did create very quickly a way that this can be something that we can give as a module. This is something that you can do in small groups at church basements. This is something that, doesn't have to necessarily just be in the hands of academics.
Yes.
Because these are answers that everybody has. Everybody knows who they're afraid of talking and upsetting. Everybody has their own story. Everybody knows, I'm worried about saying this because it might make people, So I feel like this is very accessible.
I think we have every reason to be hopeful. That's the good news.
We just fixed the world. My job. We need to be nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize.
Yay! Now let's oh, I can dance. I can do the dance. Okay. So no, we didn't get to solve political division in one afternoon. What we did come away with, though, was the outline for a workshop that we could facilitate to help people start having these conversations and fostering these connections, and do it while holding each other accountable and making sure there was room to express those, maybe imbalances in those conversations. And it was really exciting. One afternoon with these amazing people, and we came away with something that we could use. And so the only thing left to do, of course, was to test it out.
And so this stuff that we've come up with, hopefully it will be helpful for you, but more importantly, please let us know what we can do to make it helpful for the people that you're thinking about.
Statement number 1, America is more divided than when I was younger.
Disagree,
So
neutral,
stand up and
agree.
move.
Okay. That's a huge move of agree. Are you neutral?
Why do you guys think that? What have you seen to give you that idea that we're more divided than we used to be?
I think there's new technology that just wasn't there when we were, growing up. That's, causing more of that division. Causing us to see less of other people and communicate differently. And I think that pushes us stronger and stronger onto opposite sides.
Literally, look at this. The other party is a threat to the nation's well-being. So it's not just, I disagree with you on policy as a Republican or a Democrat, but if you're a Republican and I'm a Democrat or vice versa, I see you as a threat. And in the interviews that I've been doing with everyone from like normal community members to ethicists, political scientists, and pastors, that fear, that feeling of threat is really motivating a lot of people to kind of retreat into their filter bubbles, right? Think about posting, "I got the vaccine" on your social media. Would you hesitate? Sarah, you went, uh-huh. Why would you hesitate?
I have some acquaintances that do not believe in vaccines, even like flu shot, anything. And I personally believe in science. And I am going to get my second COVID vaccine this afternoon. Me too. So honestly, no one except for my very close family and most people, like my Facebook friends or whatever, they don't really know I have the COVID vaccine. They don't know that my dad is fully vaccinated, my mom has her first, just because it could be because why do you believe in science? The government is forcing it on you. No one forced us to get the vaccine.
Trying to avoid jumping straight in with "you are an idiot" and type thing, and instead assuming that this person that you have had in your life for however long you've had them, that they're a decent human being, you've kept them in your life for a reason. So, since we're so cool about everything else, why are you still being asked about this?
So the results were actually really positive. Most of the students left with at least one skill that they could use when they're engaging with people, and not just when they're engaging in kind of a theoretical way, but when they're engaging and the stakes for the relationship are higher, or when there's strong emotion involved. And I felt like that was something that we as a group added to the conversation. And it left me with a lot of hope. Okay, cool. Then the last one is, do you have hope for the future? Are you hopeful?
I am hopeful about the future. Yes, that makes me hopeful.
If we keep talking and we keep wrestling with these difficult issues, we keep engaging, I think there is hope for all of us. And if we keep at it, maybe we can all become reunited.